And we're live, Clive.
So,
how do?
Are you alright?
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm alright.
Good lad.
Mick, used to work with Mick. We've done the 20 questions. Another little video. Wherever you want to start, mate. Just a little recap. How long were you in the prison service, mate?
Just short of 25 years.
How many prisons did you work at?
4. Plus, obviously, detached duty, but 4 main prisons.
And what was your nickname?
Well, Ruthless was my Manchester Strangeways nickname, but I've had plenty.
Yeah. We'll swiftly move on, shall we? Yeah. Wherever you want to go, mate, there you go.
Well, I mean, ostensibly, this is about like a brief history of my life story. So, I was born 26th of May 1952, Davy Hume Park Hospital. Lived in a suburb of Manchester, Monton, to a father who was a miner, a coalface electrician.
Where was the pit then?
Moseley Common.
Was there many pits around Manchester?
Oh, there's quite a few.
Really?
There was Sandholm, Moseley Common. There was one down Swinton Way. There was
really?
There was a fair few, yeah. So, and my mother was a shop worker, but for my first 5 years of my life, my mother didn't work. She took me to school on my first day, age 5, and then she commenced work. I used to get the bus to and from school as a 5-year-old. It was an old penny each way.
There'd be a lot of people who watch this. What?
Dinosaur, okay?
Yeah.
I used to get a threepenny bit. So it was a penny going to school and a penny coming back from school, and I had a penny at the tuck shop at school.
Yeah, threepenny bit is a 3p piece, believe it or believe it not, guys.
And the extra penny I had was I could buy a jammy Dodger, and I had my third of a bottle of milk, which good old Maggie did stop, Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, they did. You used to get milk at school, didn't you?
Yeah, it was full of calcium. It was good. So yeah, so we lived in Monton probably the first 2 or 3 years of my life. Then we moved to Winton, part of Worsley. We were quite, we weren't poor, but we weren't rich. I would say my mum and dad were probably upper working class. I never wanted for any.
Mine is getting a good wage then, compared to.
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, don't forget there was, and I didn't properly see my dad. I don't remember seeing my dad till I was 14.
Because of shifts work.
Because of the shift work. My dad used to work 12 hours a day. And, you know, I mean, I used to get up at half an hour before I went to school, and I'd go to bed at 7 o'clock. Well, my dad would work 6 till 6 and then go to the pub for a couple of hours. So I never saw him before he went to work, and I didn't really see him after he came home.
That were a classic families.
Yeah.
Life, weren't it?
Yeah,
then,
yeah. The woman ruled the house and the dad provided the wages, like, you know. But I never wanted for anything. I was an only child. I don't remember asking for anything. I used to think sometimes I'd like something, and it was always there. You know, I had quite a privileged upbringing, considering I was working class.
But what did you want then? You know, when I think back to a kid, I think once I got a bike, a push bike,
yeah,
I got everything I wanted.
Yeah, I got a Mark 1 chopper when they came out.
Oh, you were privileged then.
Gear stick in the middle.
Yeah, you were privileged. Rally chopper.
Yeah. So, yeah, so growing up was great. I was, for the first 6 holidays of my life, I used to go away with me uncle and auntie down to Cornwall, to East Loo. We used to stay, Loo in Cornwall.
Camping?
No, it was bed and breakfast.
Very privileged, like I said.
Absolutely. I caught my first shark when I was about 8-year-old. I was sick as a dog, like, but I caught a shark with my Uncle Charlie's fishing boat out there. It was good. I think that really got me into loving the, you know, the sea and the living next to the coast and that, because I did end up in the Merchant Navy. So yeah, nothing special growing up. Went to Worsley Church of England school. Sunday mornings I attended church for a while, and then Methodist church.
Did you have to attend church?
Yes, yeah.
Was that the schooling or your family?
Both. It was both, but mainly family. So yeah, Worsley Church of England school till I was 11. Failed the 11 plus.
Tell people what an 11 plus is, because they won't know.
Well, the 11 plus was an examination that you took at the end of your primary school at the age of 11, and it was to test whether you were good enough to go to a grammar school. So if you passed the 11 plus, you went to a grammar school. If you failed it, you went with all the other thickos to secondary school. So I went with the thickos. But yeah, you know, in those days, that's what happened. I went to Winton County Secondary Modern School as an 11-year-old. Got into some bad habits, started smoking as an 11-year-old.
Did you?
Gave up at 12. It was a bad habit. Just the usual things. I didn't really get any GCSEs at school. I passed, I can't remember what they were called in those days. There was another set of exams anyway, but nothing too grand. Didn't get any O levels or A levels.
Were they O levels then? No.
There was O levels and A levels, but I didn't get any. In those days, we had a careers master at school, and it was 1967, and I'd got an interview and a job application for the Weights and Measures Department of Customs and Excise. It was the first year they got weights and measures.
Oh yeah.
And I was full of it, you know, came home and...
What were we then, 15 or 16?
15.
15.
15. Told my mum and dad. My dad sat there on one of the few occasions that I actually remember speaking to him. Telling him how, you know, I'd got this job and I was very proud of myself and everything. He listened, and he said, well, you know, he said, that's great. He said, but you're joining the Merchant Navy. I said, what do you mean I'm joining the Merchant Navy? He said, I've signed you up for Shell Tankers UK Limited. You're going as an indentured cadet engineer.
As a what?
An indentured.
What's that mean?
Signed up. You were signed. Slavery, basically. My dad had signed.
At 15?
At 15.
Really?
Yeah.
Could he do that?
He did it. All legal in those days.
So, explain what the Merchant Navy is.
Well, I went to Riversdale Tech in Liverpool as a 15-year-old. Left home, went to Riversdale Tech. We first of all, we stayed in lodgings that was approved by the company, Shell Tankers, and the college. And it was 2 years studying all kinds of heat engines, pure maths, tech drawing, all kinds of engineering stuff. And I was the least bit interested because...
Was it fail or pass?
Oh, it was, yeah. Well, I'll tell you a little story in a minute. It was 2 years at college.
Yep.
18 months, then they sent you out to serve on a ship as a cadet engineer, and then back for your final 18 months. And there was Board of Trade examinations or degrees. There was ONCs, ONDs in engineering. All, I think, qualifications now that don't exist.
No, they were ONDs, Ordinary National Diploma Ordinary Certificate, when I was at college, but yeah. I don't know how long they continued.
No. So, I had a ball there, really. But I was a bit of a rebel. Had long hair. And the superintendent of engineers, when he used to come to visit, he used to say, you need to get your hair cut next time I come, or there'll be trouble. And in the end, I didn't get my hair cut, and I got fired.
Did you?
Fired me because I won't cut my hair.
Really?
Yeah. So I used to go home every third weekend. I used to have a weekend in Liverpool, a weekend at home, and a weekend in Wales with friends of mine. So it was my weekend to go home. Mother picked me up at the station, went home, had a weekend at home. Mother took me to the station on Monday morning, ostensibly to go back to Liverpool, although I didn't have a job. Put the suitcases in left luggage, went into Trafford Park and got myself a job at Gardner and Sons, diesel engine manufacturers in Pattycroft. My mum was surprised to find me at home on Monday night. And my dad...
Did you not tell him you'd been sacked then?
No.
Were you too scared to tell him?
Well, I wanted to make sure I'd got a job before I told
Okay,
them.
fair dues.
I got the job. I got a job, starting the following day as it happened. And my mother wasn't best impressed, and she said, well, your father will have something to say. So when he came home, he didn't have much to say, but he did tell me to pack my bags and leave home.
Really?
Yeah. So I did. I stayed with friends in Liverpool in Salford, by Salford Rugby Club, for a couple of years then. And it was at that time I became a roadie with a local pop group.
Did you?
Penthouse. And I did quite a few actually. I did roadieing for Penthouse and Odyssey. And then finally, I did a little bit with Alvin Stardust.
Wow.
Who I didn't know when he was under his real name, Bernard Jury, and Shane Fenton. And then he became Alvin Stardust.
There'll be a few of them scratching their heads now again.
Mike Kukachu.
Yeah, I obviously know who he is.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, we're going back now to the early 70s.
Yeah.
Late 60s, early 70s.
70s were my decade, really. From school, and that alt music I remember is, you know...
Yeah, well, I'm a child of the 60s, early 70s. But in 1974, I went to the Lost World. Myself and 3 of my mates emigrated to South Africa.
What's the Lost World?
Well, it was so backward, and there was no TV, there was nothing in South Africa back then.
Literally, it was just...
Yeah, it was apartheid was rife. I mean,
again, tell people what apartheid is, because they won't know what it is.
Well, apartheid basically is white minority rule over a black majority people. Can't put it any plainer than that.
Segregation, weren't they?
Segregation, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I went in the November of '74, and the Daily Mirror headline that day, I remember distinctly, was a picture of a black South African guy on the ledge of a multi-storey block of flats, threatening to jump, and the headline was something, I don't know exactly, but it was something along the lines, you know, jump, you know,
really?
Can't wait for him to jump. So yeah, I went out to South Africa, and I'd only been there about, well, that was in November. In the December, I was working for Siemens, the German electrical company. The job was no longer there, so they sacked me, basically. I moved there. I went down to, because the woman who ran the block of flats we were living in, her husband was a refrigeration engineer, and he worked down in Durban, all over the place, really.
Did you get well paid in South Africa?
Well,
compared to their cost of living?
Compared to their, well, I'll give you, for instance, I was on £5 grand a year, and I was living in a house with tennis courts,
really,
a swimming pool, shared. It was shared. But yeah, I did. Whilst I was in Durban, I went down to Durban. I was staying with him in Durban, looking around for work. Couldn't find any work anywhere. I worked in a gay bar, the Gaucho bar. That was an experience.
Yeah, I can see you pulling that off, really, mate.
Yeah. And one of the guys who come in was the personnel manager for a shipping company, and we got talking. There was a bar between us, a wooden bar, but we got talking, and I told him of the qualifications that I had and the work experience that I had and everything. He offered me a job. Ostensibly, on the repair side, on dock side, if you like. So I went down and had a look round. And
is this still in South Africa?
It's in Durban. Yeah, didn't fancy it. So he said, have you ever fancied going to sea or back to sea? And I thought, yeah, why not? So this is 1975, middle of 75. So, you know, like 8 years after my dad had forced me to go in the Merchant Navy,
yeah.
I'm now going back in voluntarily.
Does the Merchant Navy encompass everything outside the Royal Navy?
Well, your Merchant Navy base is yeah, it's everything outside.
So if you worked on a cruise liner, are you
that's merchant?
Yeah.
Yeah, Merchant Navy.
Tankers.
Merchant Navy, gas carriers, oboes, you name it. So yeah, I started at the very bottom. I had some great adventures. I was arrested in Mozambique.
What's that called now, Mozambique? Is that
Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe, yeah.
For illegally exporting food, because it was the middle of the troubles there. The Frelimo troops were marching down, kicking the Portuguese out.
Was it Mozambique then? Was it when they had a revolution and it became Zimbabwe?
Yeah, eventually it became. They were going through that revolution. All the countries sort of south of the equator that were run by the Portuguese, by the English, the Germans, the Dutch that had interest there. The local people were revolting and they wanted their own independence. So after bribing one of the Frelimo soldiers to let me in back into the dock area, I got away with it. Many adventures, and I eventually, on a trip to Tranmere, Liverpool, I re-met my best friend's fiance, and they'd split up, and I ended up getting married, 1979.
I just left school, me.
79.
78, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so sort of got married and...
You settled down?
Well, you see, I was, by this time, it was about, it was difficult to, my wife, my ex-wife as she is now, didn't want to emigrate to South Africa. She was a Manchester girl, and she wanted to live in Manchester.
You're still working for South African company?
Still working South African company.
Right.
So, I had a choice. I'll give you sort of, I went from working for a South African company for £5 grand a year. I changed over then and started working for the Kuwaitis for 17.5 grand a year for doing the same job.
Wow.
That was a difference in, you know, like, standard of living.
That was a good living wage then, weren't it? Yeah,
but it didn't go as far, you know, I mean, obviously the standard of living and everything was a lot higher here. So it was a good wage. It was a good wage. And the idea was, we bought a house in Worsley, work 4 years for the Arabs, pay off the house, and then get a job on land. Well, it didn't work out that way. I didn't really know my ex-wife when I got married, to be honest. It was only, and out of the 6 years I was married, I spent 4.5 years away at sea. Really? Yeah. Still, the 18 months that I was with her, we managed 2 kids, so, you know, that was all right. But
still in touch?
Yeah, she lives a mile away. See her now and again, obviously.
Do you know her better now then, obviously?
Yeah, I think it took her 25 years for her to forgive me, you know what I mean? So, yeah, and there again, the Kuwaitis then went through a period of rationalisation that they decided to sack all the Europeans that worked for them, and they employed Koreans for about 1/5 of the wage, I think. Things were getting tight.
Same world over, isn't it, that?
Absolutely, yeah. So it got made redundant. I got 6 months' pay and I was paid for 6 months. I got a lump sum and what have you. So that eased me into it a little bit, but I couldn't find a job anywhere. You know, I did a bit of taxiing to, you know, to keep my head above water and what have you. And then along came the Falklands War. Manna from heaven for a merchant navy guy. So I got a job. I flew out to Jerez in the south of Spain, joined a ship that was going down with the task force.
What were you cargo carrying?
We was carrying all the equipment, heavy diggers, men, supplies to rebuild Port Stanley Airport that had been bombed and what have you. So we went down following the task force, and you know, the further we got into the South Atlantic, the ship next to mine was hit. That's when the Sheffield got hit.
HMS Sheffield, yeah. I remember it well.
Yeah, there was a little bit of panic. We ended up at Ascension Island for a while the Royal Navy and the Marines went and sorted the Argies out. And then when it was safe for us to go, we went down there. And I tell you now, the Falklands might be at the end of the world, but it's a beautiful place.
Is it?
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, you get 4 seasons in one day, but it was just unbelievable. You know, I mean, there's nothing there, but it is fantastic.
What was the population then of the Falklands?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. Couple of thousand maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I was offered a job to stay down there for a while, but no.
Didn't fancy it? Didn't fancy it.
Didn't fancy it. Came home via Cape Town and flew home. So that was about 82, 83. Got back into taxiing again for a while. I did apply for jobs, but, you know, didn't get many. Until I took a fare once from where I live locally to Manchester Strangeways prison, and get talking to people, you know, where you going, what you're doing, you know, oh, Manchester prison. Yeah, I've interviewed for a job. Oh, right, okay, that's good. And that sort of stuck in there for a while because I was getting fed up of doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And a couple of months later, I went to the Labour Exchange.
Explain what that is. People want to know what Labour Exchange. The job centre.
The job centre.
It's the job centre, Mick.
All right. Went to Labour Exchange in St Ewan Centre, and I asked when it was my turn to, you know, she said, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Well, have you got an application form for the prison service?" And she looked at me as if I got 3 heads. Well, I don't know about that, she said. And then she come back, she had an application. That was 1987. 15 months later, having to go through all the hoops that they put you through, you know, all the checks and balances that they have to do. And then they kept I didn't know this at the time, but, you know, they kept a lot of us back for fresh starts.
Explain what that is for people, mate.
Fresh start was...
the prison service, they changed a lot of terms and conditions, didn't they?
Well, they did, yeah. They changed the working conditions, the hours, to benefit them, basically. I mean, the prison service used to run on overtime up until Fresh Start, and then as you joined at Fresh Start, you worked a 40-hour week with 12 hours compulsory overtime.
I don't even know how you could make people work 12 hours compulsory.
That's what you signed up for.
Was that your contract?
That was your contract of employment. But by that same contract of employment,
yeah,
you did sign on to work until 55 and get a full pension.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously, as you know, these things change. So yeah, I signed on for that, and then I went to Wakefield Prison Service College for 9 weeks, which doesn't happen anymore now, but did a 9 weeks course, and it was probably the best it was definitely the best 9 weeks of me.
You definitely said in the questions when I asked you, the best time in the prison service, other than K-Wing, which we'll talk about later, was at Prison Service College.
It was. It was absolutely the best.
Well, that doesn't bode well for the rest of the prison service, does it? If your best time is the first 9 weeks in training. Explain what was that? What was it like then, prison service training? 'Cause what I imagine, you turned up, residential, went out every night, got pissed, had a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
Was that basically?
Basically, I mean, what I will equate it to learning to drive. When you learn to drive a car, you learn to drive the proper way. Yeah. You're taught several different ways and things you can do and things you can't do.
It's almost like you just woke up then.
Is it?
Yeah, you sort of...
Well, prior to that, I had a boring life before that. But that's what it was like. You go to training school, they teach you how to do report writing, and obviously there's a fitness part. There's everything that you're supposed to know when you set foot on your first day on the landing.
Yeah.
You're prepared for the prison service. Wrong. The first day that you set foot on the landing in your jail is the day you start learning about how to do the job in the prison service. And everything that's gone before that is a crock of crap, believe me.
And training, you know, I did it twice, private and public sector, exactly the same thing. Yeah. It's been like that for years and years and years, never changed. Do you think, for me, when you talk about 9 weeks training, 10 weeks, whether it's been 12 weeks, 8 weeks, because it's varied, that they're saying that almost like you're going into the job qualified, you know, some sort of... For me, 2/3 of that, you could just kick it to touch.
Oh, absolutely.
Do your CNR, do a bit of report writing or whatever for a couple of 3 weeks, then give someone a set of keys, get them on a landing, because that's where they're going to learn. Mentoring, you know, sticking with somebody who's been there a while.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I joined the job, you wasn't a fully qualified prison officer. You had to do 12 months as
you're on probation?
As a probationer. And that probation could be extended if you weren't doing the...
If you were toss.
Yeah. Which was great, because that first 12 months, seriously, that is when you learn how to do the job. You learn so much about... I mean, my first sort of month in the job, obviously my report writing skills came to the fore, because... anytime a prisoner looks at me the wrong way, right, you report right, nick them, send them up. I'd be down in front of the governor.
Were you encouraged to do that?
Well, I was actively discouraged to do it, in effect, because after my first month there, I'd got a couple of nickings up in front of the governor, and I've done my first nicking, blah, 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 it's what's happened's happened, come outside, sit down, wait again. Senior officer down the seg come out to me. He said, I've just had a message off the governor. He said, he's fed up of sorting your shit out. He said, it's about time you become a prison officer. Because everything that happened, I just nick him for. And, you know, that's not the job. The job is, as you know, is
dealing with things, isn't it?
Yeah.
On a daily, whether it, you know, mild dramas, serious stuff, you know, people kicking off or whatever. Do you not think... I have a very good friend, yeah, and she had to wait to start in the prison service. So what they did, they offered her a job as an OSG. So she did 6 months with keys as an OSG in the jail. And she kept saying to me, do you know what, Sam, I'm learning so much. I'm not hands-on, obviously, but because I'm going around the jail. Because the difficult part of the job is knowing how to react into it and deal with things.
And everybody's got a different way of doing with it.
Of course they have, you know, massively different people, like I said, but not my worry, it doesn't affect me now, but what is happening now is very little experience left. People are banged up all day, so people don't learn how to react, how to deal with people. They've none of that dynamic security, none of that chit chat. You were obviously very keen when you started.
I tell you, I love the job. It was probably the only job I've ever done. Not that I've had many, but it was the only job I've ever done that I liked doing and I could do, and I did it well. Obviously, the nickname, you know, I mean, it's a bit of a joke really, but Ruthless. Ruthless was pure and simple. I wasn't a pushover, I wasn't a patsy. If a prisoner deserved, or if a prisoner had a right to have something, then he got it. Doesn't matter what he'd done. If it was his right, then he got it.
Yep.
But anything else, it had to be earned, you know.
Where was your first placement?
Rochester. Fantastic little jail. It was next to Cook and Wood.
Population about
400.
I've always wondered what it'd be like to work in a small prison.
Well, obviously straight out of school down there. 13 of us were new starters. I was on A wing. A wing was a dormitory unit. 4 dorms, 15-bed dormitories.
What was the prison? What category was it? What was it?
It was a bit of everything. It was remand, it was Cat C, juveniles. It was a mixture of quite a lot of different things.
So explain the dormitories.
But it was an HMP.
Was the dormitories, was it like open, literally, you know?
Oh yeah, there was 4 rooms on the ones.
Yeah.
Corridor down the middle.
Yeah.
Like a crossroads in the middle of the landing, and then there was 1, 2, 3, 4 separate dorms with 15 beds in. They were open. There was 15 people just, you know, roaming about.
Yeah.
And what have you.
Did they have showers and stuff like that?
Showers were at the end of the corridor. There was no facilities indoors.
Right.
You know, they peed and pooed in there.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, with the slop out buckets and everything.
Out still.
Slop out, yeah. So yeah, Rochester was great. In the summer, ED duty on D wing. Take your party of 12 out to the swimming pool.
Really?
At a swimming pool. Yeah, took them out to the swimming pool. It was a walled swimming pool. It was quite secure, so that was a good gig to get on. They had a farm attached to it, so you know a lot of the young lads went out and worked on the farm. He worked on the farm. Cook and Wood opposite, female prison.
Yep.
Hindley was in there at the time. I had a Hindley. The male staff from... That was probably the first year they had female staff working in male jails, by the way.
Yeah.
But some of the male staff used to do a fortnight over in Cook and Wood to familiarise yourself with their layout and everything, because Cook and Wood wasn't on the net. They didn't have a radio net. Really? They had a Juliet radio on the gate at Cook and Wood, and they used...
What sort of prison was that for lasses? Was that a semi-open prison?
No, it was a closed prison. I'm not sure what the designation was. I would imagine that was sort of Cat C, sort of Cat B. But it was a closed prison. I would imagine it's Cat B. It was adults. And of course, in those days, there weren't that many female prisons. Holloway would be one. Cook and Wood. But that was good, you know, if you got a shout at Cook and Wood and it was, you was on duty and you had the radio, you shot over there and dealt with it. But working... So
you supported that prison, supplied staff during incidents and things?
Yeah, major incidents. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, yeah.
So how long were you at Rochester?
I was at Rochester for, I went there in 88, 91, early 91, early 92. I'd got myself involved with a female lass, and to cut a very long story short, her husband was doing 14 for manslaughter.
Okay.
And when he found out I was messing about with his lass, he sent a couple of the guys round very early one morning, shotguns and axes.
Really? Did you know when you started seeing her?
Not immediately, no. It soon became obvious. I've always liked to live quite close to the danger line. But anyway, through that I got a compassionate move up to the house I'm living in now, up north. And I had a choice of either style or gaff. Well, we're walking round and being sort of involved with female prisoners every now and again at Cookham. There was no way I would ever want to work in a female prison. No way whatsoever.
Just briefly tell people why you won't want to work in a lass's prison.
Me personally, or any male?
You. I would have no desire.
I'd have been tempted. I can't put it any.
Do you know what? Absolutely, thank you for your honesty, because you know. Can I ask you?
Yeah.
I was talking to a old style con, yeah, a jewel thief. So he did a lot of prison, and he never had no trouble in any prison he was in because he was a really good artist. So lads who were locked up and staff would go to him, portrait, but he was brilliant.
Yeah.
Never wanted for burn or anything. However, he says, Sam, he says, I noticed when lasses started working in the job, he said the discipline went. And he says, it's not a derogatory comment that, but anywhere, you know, you've just got lads working somewhere, you bring lasses in, they take their eye off the ball. He says, and you could see it. It changed the dynamics at a prison service.
No, I believe that, yeah.
So that's why, very honest, so you obviously went to Garth then.
I did, yeah. Definitely, that was the lesser of the two evils.
I'll tell you another lad I was speaking to who, I was talking about him, whether it was yesterday or the day before, described himself as not pretty, portly, middle-aged, yeah, did a short period in lasses prisons at the end of his service, and he says, Sam, it was on a plate. He says, they were young lasses, you know, not because I've got anything, just because I was a lad. It was...
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, so...
110%, yeah. So
you went to Garth.
So I went to Garth, yeah. And out of all, I mean, I worked in 4 jails, main prisons. Garth prison, I've made friends with staff there that are still friends now.
Why?
It was just that dynamic.
That Nick at that time, right management. Because it can change dynamics of a prison, can't it?
Absolutely, yeah. The people that work there, I mean, I'm going away next Saturday to Newcastle, 7 of us, and they all ex-Garth.
Really?
Prison officers.
So how long ago is that?
Well, I left Garth in 96. So
wow,
25 years ago. Yeah. So something like that.
Yeah, 25 years plus then. So
while I was at Garth, I got very seriously assaulted by a prisoner. I was.
Did you deserve it?
No, I didn't. It was a female governor that got me into trouble. Basically, what happened was I was doing.
You know what I meant then, didn't you?
I know what you meant. Yeah. I'm not going there. Not biting.
No, go on.
Not yet, anyway.
Okay.
So, no, I was on correspondence. We opened up at...
Explain what correspondence is.
Correspondence is dealing with prisoners' visits and letters, mail. They were entitled to, if you was convicted or remand, you were entitled to different free letters to send out. If you was a remand, you can have as many as you want. Prison expense. If you was convicted prisoner, you got 1 free letter per week. And obviously everything's kept down in the diary and everything, and governors can give for good behaviour, they can give sort of little sweetie treaties and what have you, and one of those treaties is you can get, for instance, if a prisoner's family lived a long way away, it's normally over 100 miles away, they were able to get extra mail, extra letters.
Fair dues.
So this particular prisoner came in and said, I want one of my free letters, and I checked the list and everything, and he'd had all the free ones, and he wasn't due another letter until the following week, and I told him that. He wasn't happy. He left the room, and I carried on with the next prisoner that came in. Next thing I know, I've got a scaffolding pole wrapped round my eye socket and the back of my head here, and he just came in and smacked me with it. The adrenaline, I got up and chased him down the landing. One of the other prisoners it was next to the SO's office, rang the alarm bell, and I just collapsed on the floor. The adrenaline ran out after about 20 yards.
Yeah. Sorry for laughing.
So that was it. Woke up in RPH, Royal Preston Hospital.
Skull fracture?
No, eye socket. Went in with a couple of spoons on this side, lifted it out, flipped it out. Bit of a scar there. But yeah, I was told, in no uncertain terms, at training school at Wakefield, by the principal officer running the show, expect to be seriously assaulted once every 20 years of your career.
Once every 20 years?
Yeah. That was then, not now. Now it's every 20 weeks.
Yeah, 20 minutes maybe.
20 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, I was off for a while, and that was that. He got, I had my day in, well, I didn't have my day in court. The court date was set for Liverpool, and the prison barrister came in and said, right, it's all over. Somebody means it's all over. I said, I've not been and given me evidence yet. He said, no. He said, we've settled on. He's got 11 months attached to his sentence. I said, 11 months? I said, for ABH. And it was explained to me that if he'd have got more than 12 months, he'd have been Cat Aid, because he was doing a long sentence.
Really?
He'd been Cat Aid, he went down to Cat B, and if he'd have got more than 12, he'd have gone back up to Cat A. So they
gave him a squeeze?
Give him a squeeze, yeah.
And why did he come and do that then? The governor had obviously promised him.
You know, it's politics, Sam. You know what prison politics
of course I do.
like. You know what I mean? There's nobody more bent and corrupt than prison management.
And you were always very good at explaining the rules to people.
Absolutely.
Because you knew them off by heart, didn't you?
Well,
I never knew the prison rules, but you did.
Yeah, so, you know, I did, I ended up in the control room at Garth, which was great, because everything come through the control room. Everything was there. And my next move at Garth from there was landing officer, not landing as opposed to what we would consider landing.
Yeah.
The landings between the various parts of the jail.
Yeah.
It's corridor.
Yeah.
Corridor work. So in those days, you used to get what was called green notices. You get green papers come around, and they were offering different jobs within the prison service.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Green. And there was one for a fitter, prison officer fitter at HMP Hindley. Engineering background. I thought, yeah, why not give it a shot?
Because at one bit, no longer now, but there were tradesmen, weren't there, in the prison service?
I'll come on to that in a minute. Trades officer fitters, trades officer electricians, trades officer painters.
Yep.
In the works department. So I filled it in, and I got the job, and off I went 4 or 5 months later to Hindley. Went on the works department there, and it was not what I thought it would be. You know, I thought with my engineering background, I was going to do like the
central maintenance job and that,
yeah. All I did was unblock prisoners' toilets, because they'd shoved all kinds of shit down them and blocked them up, especially when they were leaving. Sunday morning, if they had boiled eggs, Monday morning, you had to go round to all the cells because he'd put all the eggshells down the shitter. I used to walk around with a plunger. I
remember the guy who used to come on healthcare, because the healthcare on plumbing was small diameter. That's right. Yeah, he'd come on with a clothes peg, put it on his... Which cell?
Yeah, so
I
very soon became quite disillusioned with that. Although at the time, the prison service were going through a rationalisation yet again, and they brought out what was called a ROWD document, which was ROWD, which was the Review of Works Departments. Basically, they were getting rid of all trades officer fitters,
yep,
turning it over to civilian side. It was a money-saving exercise.
Putting the officers back on the landings.
Officers back on, retraining them, putting them back on. Although every weekend I was on the landings anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I went through that. I became part of the union's consultative committee on that, and we destroyed it. Went down to head office in London, and we presented our case to the Director General and his cronies, who listened intently. We went out for a break, came back, and they very politely said, "Thank you very much for your performance today, but rowdy's happening anyway." So, you know, and that's what happened. So then I go back on the landings then.
An inlet at that time was young offenders. Was it juveniles?
Juvies came about that time. At that point in time, like I say, going on I became very active with the union, and I ended up as the secretary of the union.
Did that job take you away from the landings?
Yeah, a lot of the time it did. We had time off to do certain things. I became quite a committed unionist, if you like, because I would never take anything on if I didn't believe in it, and I believed in, you know,
because then the unions were traditionally about workers' rights and the thing, weren't they?
Yeah. I mean, the prison service ran through bullying. Management bullied prison staff to do things, and if you stood up to a bully, as you know, they'd just move on to somebody who can't stand up to a bully.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be that person who's bullied. I wanted to be his voice, because I wasn't frightened. They couldn't bully me. There's nothing they could say or do to me. And I enjoyed that challenge anyway. And you know, I wasn't very well liked by management, but I didn't care.
Not surprisingly.
So
no, listen, what Mick's saying, I will say this now, the prison service does run on management bullying, still runs on it now, and sadly now a lot of people who are finding themselves in positions where they should be defended, they are in the right, they end up going at wall because they don't get no union backing. So basically you took on that role and did it properly.
Well, as best as I could, yeah. You know, yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, it was dueling with management, if you like. I always looked at myself as a shepherd, not a sheep. Yeah. I always liked to be sort of in control.
A leader, not a follower.
A leader, not a follower, definitely. So
there is, I've got to say this as well. There is that side to you as well, isn't there? Where, you know, you will take things on.
Oh, absolutely.
You know. If you think you're in the right, it don't matter whether it's like another prison officer or it's the #1 governor, you're going to have a bit of a toe-to-toe and
absolutely, and
express your opinions.
In a civil manner.
Yeah, you know, yeah, professionally. Yeah, very good, you know.
Absolutely.
That is the first rule, that, isn't it? I was taught that in engineering, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, you keep it at a level. If a manager starts effing and jeffing at you,
well,
then you're entitled to... But you have already won, yeah.
You've got the moral high ground straight away.
Yeah, definitely.
You know. So, yeah, so where was I? I was at...
You were at Inley, you took on the union role, when people getting bullied and that.
Yeah.
You know, you'd...
yeah, so I came off the works department, got retrained.
Retrained. Did you have to do the training again?
It was a week at St Anne's. It was a jolly, mate.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant.
Explain what a jolly is if people don't know. It's just a week away on the piss, isn't it? Basically. Yeah, it is.
And subs.
Yeah, and some. Which were few and far between the prison service, so if you got one, you make the most of them. Absolutely.
Yeah, you did. You know. So, I mean, I'm skirting through a lot of things. At the time we were going through, the prison service were going through privatisation. And... they put Hindley onto a PIP, which was a performance improvement plan. Basically, you're cutting your own throat. Ever since I joined the prison service, the budget was cut 3% a year. Now, if you can imagine, I was in it 25 years. Yeah. The budget was cut quite a lot.
Yeah, and so we have a country that's expanding, criminality is expanding, prison population's expanding, budget...
not expanding, it was decreasing.
And it always has been.
So as the chairman and secretary of the union, the POA, Prison Officers Association, we were entitled to go on the group with governors, and we had a 12-month jolly. We had our own offices, We had everything. Now, at that time, because we were juveniles and young offenders, our governor, a female governor who was not very well liked, obviously no names, no pack drill, she was horrible. She ran roughshod over everything. She was a dictator, and one of her thoughts was that we would have the population at Hindley would be open for 14 hours out of cell.
Wow.
Per day, 14 hours. And she told me that the head of youth custody in the prison service had told her that. And when she came out with this, I just said, excuse me, ma'am, but you're a liar. Said it to her face in front of everybody. Other governors there, they sat there twiddling the pencils and looking down and, oh shit, what's going to happen now? I said, and I'll tell you why you're a liar. I said, because I spoke to that same fella that you're talking about 2 days ago, and he told me 10 hours is the maximum that he would allow. So where you get your 14 hours from, I haven't got a clue. So it was, anyway, I lasted 11 months out of the 12-month section, and then I got kicked off.
Who kicked you off? The union or the prison service?
The prison service removed me from it.
From office?
From office.
Can they do that?
They did it.
Okay, so obviously they could.
The union, who I'd fought for most of my life, just rolled over and tickled the belly, never said anything. So, I applied for a job at Manchester, Strangeways.
Strangeways.
Now, normally, when you apply for a job, if you get the job, the prison that you are going from retain you for about 5 or 6 months until they get a replacement. 4 weeks.
I was going to say, did they order you a taxi?
4 weeks.
Did they order you a taxi?
4 weeks. Four weeks.
So when did you go to Strangeways? What year was that then?
That was 2005, January the 4th.
Oh, so you landed on K-Wing 4 months before I started?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's a little side to that story.
Yeah.
When everybody who'd done the performance improvement plan at Manchester, everybody that was involved in it, everybody got a promotion. If I'd have stayed the 12 months, and you didn't have to go through any of the exams or whatever was involved in, you know, becoming a senior officer for me, and it was just always, you just automatically got a promotion. Of course, I didn't.
Would you have ever wanted a promotion?
No. I did.
Tell me why. I've said that. Tell me why.
Well, I did 15 months as an SO at Garth. I enjoyed it tremendously, but it kept me, because I was one of the boys. There were certain things I couldn't be involved in. I had to separate myself from it. And although, as a, you know, to do the job professionally, which I did, I didn't like it.
I think looking at you being a manager or something like that in the prison service, like you say, from the top down, they're never wrong, are they?
No.
So even if I'm right, there's a senior officer, principal, they're all going to support each other. And as a senior officer or principal officer, wherever you are in pecking order, however low you are, pretty much you have to go along with what's happening above, don't you? You do. And you won't be able to do that, would you? No. Me neither. See, the thing is with the senior officer is you get it from the top and the bottom. Yeah. You know, it's the worst job that you can actually do. I mean, they don't. There's no such thing as a senior officer anymore. It's all CMs and stuff like that. But no. So they don't encourage you to be individuals, do they? They don't want. We work with some good ones. Absolutely. However, you're not encouraged that. They don't want you to be an individual. They don't want you to manage. They don't want you to think, do they? No. What happened was everybody got promoted, plus they all got a bonus. And my governor gave me £100 bonus for 11 months' work. The guy that did 1 month got £2 grand, and he got promoted to an SO. Wow. So, being the person that I am, I caused a stink, and I ended up in front of the Director General of the prison service. Of the prison service in London, in his office,
with my representative, and I'd argued my case. I'd obviously wrote the letters to him and everything, and we had tea. Wendy, his secretary, who I'd known for many, many years throughout the prison service, and her husband, we had tea and biscuits and everything. We had a long chat, and he agreed with me, and he gave me a bonus and told me that my governor was wrong.
Really?
He also said quite a number of other things as well,
which we're not going to repeat.
Which we're not going to repeat. And I ended up giving him a tie from the rugby section for the prison service, because I knew he was into rugby. So I presented him with a tie.
So, you know, sometimes people at the top do the right things, don't they?
Reluctantly, they do.
I'll tell you what, if I was Director General of the Prison Service, vote for me, guys. No, if I was, and somebody, a lowly person like you, ended up in front of me, I would deal with it appropriately, but I'd be pissed that it had to come to me.
Oh, absolutely.
That something that happened in a local prison had to come all the way to the top to be dealt with.
Absolutely.
Pathetic, isn't it?
It is. And I'm sure he dealt with the female governor that did it. I'm sure he dealt with her in the correct way. But of course, my position was untenable then at Hindley, so I had to move. You know, so I went to Manchester and...
K-Wing, massive.
K-Wing, massive.
Let's talk about K-Wing, Mick. First of all, amongst prisoners, legendary. Because whenever anyone's been on K-Wing, they always talk about it being Beirut. You know, I enjoyed our first 2 years on there. It was exciting. It was frightening. It was busy. Something always going on. We had fantastic managers, Bertie Bassett, SpongeBob, Wainers, and some good staff. Not all. We've had this discussion before.
No,
you weren't as committed as me. I said 15, 20 good staff, 15, 20, 15, 10 all right staff, and 10 shite staff. However, what I have said is, as a team effort, it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you've got to have all different types of people. I mean, everybody is an individual, as is every prisoner is an individual. So, you know, you get that mixture. There's a billion different combinations that work and don't work.
Definitely.
But K-Wing massive. Yeah, it was my best 2 years in the prison service. I mean, I've said before that the most people that are still my friends now are from Garth.
Yeah.
The best staff that I worked with, as not friends but staff, were K-Wing at Strangeways for that 2 years, till it was spoilt by that person that
who shall remain nameless.
I did name in a previous interview. My
best mate, yeah.
But it was good, you know. It was excellent.
What was it about it?
I don't know. I mean, I got the 4s. I got K-Wing 4s.
3 landing, K-Wing for you guys. The layout is, you got a 1s landing where there was the gym, the servery, cleaning
laundry,
office, storage. So it was actually 3 residential landings, 2s, 3s and 4s, 200 prisoners, about 110 cells. About 70 per landing, weren't it? Something like that. Yeah. I worked predominantly on the 2s landing, where we used to have the basic prisoners.
All the movements went through you.
Yeah.
Down there.
Mick worked on the 4s. The 4s was always the cleanest landing. The 4s was always locked up first, every night. You know, we'd be running around chasing prisoners, trying to get them out of showers. 4s, tumbleweed on landings. Cleaners emptying bins, tumbleweed on landings. 3s were somewhere in between, weren't it?
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing was, the thing that I enjoyed about that, prisoners were out a lot on that wing, weren't they?
They were.
So there was a lot of social engagement, interactions all day, hundreds.
Massive.
Non-stop.
Massive.
You know, a lot of people that come on there from G-Wing have got, you know, we had lifers, people from long-term prisons, people are mentally unwell, mental illness, bad boys nobody else wanted in the prison, you name it, absolutely everything. And they brought with them a lot of problems, didn't they? You know, people wanted stuff sorting out, which only officers could do.
Yeah.
I mean, yourself, very regimented, every day, all the applications, an application. Then, prisoners had to put in writing, They now have like a Unilink thing where they can do a lot on computer, but it was literally make tech applications. Again, if his door was open for 20 minutes to bring apps, if you were there at 21 minutes, shop was shut.
See you tomorrow.
However, if your application was there on time, it was dealt with as far as he could take it. You know, you get an answer, you get a reply, your problems would get sorted. I bigged you up quite a lot there on 4s, haven't I?
Yeah, could have done it a bit more, but...
Tell him what Bobby Boy said when that lad went up to him about you that we were talking about earlier. Well, I'll tell you, one lad come up to me. He said, Mr. Samworth, that Mr. Redfern's riding me. I says, what do you mean? He says, he's on my case. I says, well, keep out of his way. What do you mean? Just keep out of his way. You know, go to somebody else if you need something doing. Keep out of his way. If he asks you to do something, go behind your door. Go behind your door. 2 days later, the lad comes up. Yeah, Mr. Samworth, it's working that. But he didn't need me to tell him that.
No. Me and Bob's working on the 4s. We're on the bridge, and a prisoner come up to Bob and said, Mr. Haig, why doesn't Mr. Redfern like me? And Bob turned round to him, very sanguine. Mr. Redfern doesn't like anybody, mate. Yeah. You're nobody special.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's true, because like Bob, you know, Bob would say, I had loads of conversations with Bob Haig, God rest his soul, such a lovely man and a great officer. You know, and he'd say, listen, if you asked 100 prisoners if they liked Officer Redfern, 99 would say no. But if you asked the same 100 prisoners if they liked Officer Redfern, if they respected Officer Redfern, then 99% would say yeah. Yeah,
definitely.
So I had no favourites, that was the thing, you know. If somebody was entitled to something, they got it. Everything else they had to earn. It's as simple as that. I had no favourites, you know.
Everyone got the same.
Everybody got, except the cleaners.
Treated the same.
Cleaners,
you look after them.
I looked after me cleaners. I used to give them Christmas presents, like all the confiscated baccy and stuff like that.
The thing is, with the cleaners, we always talk about cleaners, prisoners who, you know, get employed to clean, but they come, if you got good ones, they make your job a lot easier, wouldn't they?
Oh, so much easier.
You know, they'd keep peace on the wing, sort stuff out, as well as keeping it clean.
Without telling her if you had a good set. I mean, it's a two-way thing. You know, if you told your cleaners what you expected of them, and if they didn't sort of reach your standards, then they were gone. Because don't forget, a prisoner who was a cleaner, I mean, it was holiday camp job for them, wasn't it, really? So long as they did the work, you know, they were out longer, they got more food, they got more of everything.
Yeah. You used to get more gym.
More gym, more everything, you know, but it was just a two-way thing, and I don't know.
It was a good time, wasn't it?
It was excellent, yeah.
It went very quickly, and then, as we said, you know, good governors, bad governors. We had to change it. I'll just talk while you have a quick look at your notes, you know.
Okay.
That time of life. Jogging his memory. No, we had a change of principal officer on the wing, and although a lot of staff left, he alienated a lot of staff, I myself ended up banging heads with him quite a lot. And the thing is about managers, you know, if you're going to an area, if you're taking over a department, or in this case a wing that works well, you've got good staff, for me what you shouldn't do is come on and change everything, which is what he did. He just changed everything. He changed the regime, the ways of working, and you know, although staff got on with it, I remember, I'll tell you when it went tits up with me and him, shall I? After about 8 months, he says to me, what do you think of new regime? I said, I used to love this job. I says, you've made my day 10 hours longer. Yeah. Yeah, and from that point on, me and him were banging heads then, because he didn't like it.
We had the same kind of story. I mean, he used to say, my office door's always open. If there's any, you know, just come and chat to me anytime. Tell me if there's anything right or wrong. You know, and I did, and as punishment, he sent me over to the croft for 6 months, and he thought that was punishment on the croft.
Just takes right. The croft, right, is where the workshops were, and the gym, and the kitchen. So from K-Wing, we had a couple of jobs where you had a radio and you went out to the workshops. I used to love it, mate. Officers hated it, didn't they? You'd be in workshops, you'd do a roll check, count all your prisoners in, count them out and search them on the way out, and you just mill about, have a brew, chat to people, chat to prisoners, chat to workshop instructors, go out to gym, see gym lads.
Absolutely.
It was great, weren't it?
It was.
It don't get any easier as a prison officer, does it?
Nope. No.
And as punishment, you got 6 months of that.
And when he found out that I loved it so much, he brought me back to the wing. But I tell you, there's two things that I mean, everybody calls the prison service. I mean, while you're in it, you're getting a lot of shit from up there, like, you know. But I mean, I've been away from the prison service now for 11 years, and it gave me a good wage when I was in it. It's given me a good pension since I've left it, and it also, obviously, apart from making a lot of friends, I had a lot to do with
enemies.
Oh, more enemies than friends. Far more. I mean, these get-togethers that we go to, you know, I mean, if there's 100 people, ex-prison staff, I probably mixed with about 10.
Yeah.
20 of them I might have got on with a little bit, but the rest of them I just couldn't stomach, you know, can't stand. But it did give me it made me a lot of friends, and my passion has always been rugby league throughout my life, and the prison service helped me to go to Australia in a roundabout kind of way, because I took 26 prison officers, rugby league playing prison officers, to Australia for 3 weeks at zero cost. And I also remember when I was at Garth, they were shooting in the visits room. They were shooting a couple of days worth of Prime Suspects. Remember?
Oh yeah,
Prime Suspects.
I do, yeah.
Helen Mirren. And lucky old me.
You didn't go on a date with Helen Mirren, did you?
I had dinner with her.
Did you?
She took me to dinner, the girl. Can't fault her for that, like. But I was on a security detail that looked after her because they came in after, you know, at tea time, and they did a lot of shooting at night and stuff like that. And the outside catering that they have, when it was Granada that was doing it. The outside catering that come and did the shoot, you know, in between shoots and that, get a bit peckish. Off we go for beef Wellington and all the trimmings and everything. And I got a couple of photos with old Dame Helen. We don't keep in touch anymore, like, but yeah, I mean, there are lots of, you know, we might paint a really bad picture of the prison service, but believe me, there were lots of good stuff.
You know, that's people ask you about, you know, the worst, most dangerous and all that stuff, but just day to day on caving, you had a good laugh. But also equally, like our weekends very little kicked off because of the dynamics. Yeah. You know, it could be the easiest thing, weren't it, having prisoners out all day?
Of course it was, yeah.
But
then you're answering bells.
Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. I've got to ask you, if there's stuff missing, you know what's been covered, we can always come back later and chat about some stuff. But what I want to ask you is, because you sort of keep up to date with the sort of union stuff-ish, don't you? What's going on? Yeah. What do you think the future of the prison services now? You know, and what do you think, you know, far as staff conditions and that, what do you think about it now?
How long have you got? Right, well, the prisons, most prisons now are run by the, I call them convicts, I know I shouldn't, the clientele. The prisoners run the prisons basically now. There's always been very little support from management to landing staff. You was lucky if you got a senior officer who would back you. You was even luckier if you got a PO or a governor that was prison staff orientated. That's gone down the drain now. We gradually started getting drug problems in my career. Bit of weed, bit of stuff like that, and it was manageable. In fact, when I was at Garth, bang up at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, whatever it was, if you smelt a little bit of weed going down one of the landings or the spurs, you knew your nightman would have no trouble, because they just went to sleep. They were happy. But now they've got spice, and I've not ever come across it, but I've heard terrible stories about it.
It's horrendous, mate.
They become catatonic, basically, and staff walking into that environment don't know what they're doing.
No, it's very dangerous.
Staff they're employing now they're good people, but they're not prison officer material. The worst thing that the prison service ever did was stop recruiting from the services. I mean, I was not particularly ex-services, but I did have a regimented way of life in the Merchant Navy. But nowadays, they're employing them on 22 grand a year.
Yeah, 22.
22 grand
I think that's
a year.
37 hours, which is equivalent to the private sector now.
Which is, you know, it's peanuts basically. And what these people that are going in the job now that have got to face is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And I don't know what the percentage is, but there must be a huge percentage that don't do a year.
I think now, mate, we discussed this a little bit before. I think now people who are resigning is about balanced, if not more, than people they're training and employing, which is a dangerous place to be, isn't it?
Now, what does it say?
Well, it's just going to be
for itself.
Well, of course it does. So prisons are going back to just being locked down all the time. However, this is what I always say, it's my big one: dynamic security, staff prisoner relationships. You look at K-Wing, you know, they were good staff prisoner relationships.
Absolutely.
When Strangeways had Inspector of Prisons round, I think it was 2013, 2014, probably the best inspection he'd ever done of a prison, he said.
Yeah.
Prisoners felt safe, staff felt safe, good interactions, self-harming, serious incidents, very little. And for me, I think it's bubbling again now. And, you know, it is a shame, but I tell you what I did. I was reading something that absolutely amazed me. Do you know, sort of prison service headquarters, operations and that, there's almost 6,000 staff that have nothing to do with prison. What are we employing 6,000 people outside? What are them 6,000 people doing?
Well, they find them things to do, you know, but it's always been the case. When they had a promotion system, the promotion system was, you know, officer, senior officer, principal officer, and then you get a G8, G7, G6, governor
grades, right
the way through. So, and it was, a lot of it was on merit, but you know, you did your exams and stuff like that, and it was depending on how long you'd been in the job as well, and you got promoted through this, that, and the other. When the pyramid's getting narrower at the top, yet people are still going up the pyramid, you're taking staff from the bottom and you're filling these posts as you go up. And there comes a point where you're overloaded at the top. The pyramid becomes inverted.
I think they're overloaded now. I bet these people just sat there, you know, worked for the prison service, never seen a prison near Minder Landing or anything like that.
No.
It's a very sad state of affairs, isn't it, mate?
It is.
I'll give you a few facts as well. The government, you know, they have these models, growth, prison population growth, people who are going to be going to prison. So I think they're providing 18,000 more places for 2026. The expected rise in criminality people they're sending far exceeds that. So they don't care, do they?
I mean, there is an answer, but they won't listen, will they? Because of human rights, this and all this, that and the other, you know. I mean, prison used to say to me, I've got human rights, you can't do that. I said, no, you came through that gate, you lost a lot of your human rights, a lot of your rights. They're just pussyfooting around. They're listening to these groups, wokeism and tokenism and the cancel culture and all that. You can solve the prison, you can halve the prison population in 5 years, and you can make sure that, you know, just by employing the staff that they bloody got rid of to do the job without interference. We're not talking bullying or...
You've touched on something there. There's a lot of people in prison don't need to be in prison, is there?
No, not at all.
You know, these models all over the world that work really well. In this country, it just seems to be, I don't know. I think it's screwed, pun intended.
It's well screwed.
Yeah. Should we go and get a brew?
Yeah.
Listen, we might come back, revisit. In fact, we will.
Yeah, do it again.
Maybe meet up and we'll discuss a few other things in more detail, yeah?
All right, mate.
I learned a few things about you today that I didn't know.
Well, there you go.
Thanks for coming. I'll see thee. Do you want to try that little Yorkshire phrase? I'll see thee.
I'll see thee.
Good lad.